Joining me now is senior writer for Politico magazine, Glenn Thrush, and political editor and White House correspondent at the Huffington Post, Sam Stein. Sam, I want to go to you first. We were quoting the piece you had today in the Huffington Post about the fact that Trey Gowdy's big question has already actually been answered. Do you think it's like laziness, bad preparation? I mean, how does Trey Gowdy not actually know that that very question has been answered by Hillary Clinton in testimony a year ago?
I'm not sure why he put that one forth, although there's been other questions that he's put forth that have also been answered. But I think it underscores to a large extent just how comprehensive the investigations have already been. There's been multiple investigations into the attack, a lot of information coming from these committees and from these investigations. To Gowdy's credit, a lot of it is touching different aspects of the attacks from that night, and it hasn't maybe not been all put into a comprehensive investigation. But at this point in time, people who are leading a select committee should probably know what's out there and what remains to be answered. There are some questions that do remain to be answered, and he just hasn't, or at least yesterday, he just didn't list one of them. Yeah,
Glenn, I mean, I guess if there is something new to mine here, if there is one thing new to mine here, which is maybe Ben Rhodes' email, but as Dave Weigel points out in Slate today, the big question over the talking points and how much of the information from the CIA Rhodes had misinterpreted or interpreted conveniently for political purposes, that the CIA just 9 hours before Ben Rhodes wrote that email had circulated its intel that the attacks grew out of a demonstration. I just wonder if you can build an entire select committee over litigating that single point.
Well, here's what I find really interesting. We're still, how many months into this? We're 18 months since the attack, roughly speaking. We're still talking about talking points. We're talking about communication between agents and officials of the State Department who are operationally involved in this and the FLACs. We're talking about talking points. We haven't gotten any real detail operationally to the same extent that we've gotten sort of from on the public relations end. If people are serious about this investigation, they have to actually move it away from the figures that the Republicans are most interested in speaking to, Hillary Clinton and President Obama. I think we've got to get down, if we really want to know what happened here, to the operational level, to the agent level, and to the
Sam, I feel like all those committees point to one thing, which is that there were some very bad decisions made. Some of them were made in earnest, some of them were not. There are things that could be put in place, but Republicans have not seized on that. They have focused this on talking points.
Well, I think they have, but then what you saw yesterday from Trey Gowdy, Representative Gowdy, was an attempt to move it back a little bit and shift the focus back to what the intelligence apparatus was saying to American officials prior to the attacks on September 11th, 2012. That's why he was asking why were we the last flag flying there, because there were a series of events in Benghazi and in Libya that underscored just how perilous the security situation is there. And, you know, there are legitimate questions that have been asked and have been answered and can be asked about why the Clinton State Department did not respond more aggressively to those security threats.
Do you think, Glenn, that Hillary Clinton and this administration need to do something different than what they are currently doing?
Well, I think they've got to obviously answer a lot of these questions. And, you know, as Sam said, I don't think the objection here is to having a free and open inquiry that's based on kind of a rational process. The issue here is sort of making the conclusions first and drawing them later. What I am so confused about, and I have tried to follow this story, I've followed as a reporter, is to establish a fact pattern so that we even know what questions are the salient questions to ask. And I'd like to ask Sam or you, Alex, do you know at this point in time what is it you want to know?
No, that's the problem, Glenn. I mean, I think there's so many questions that are being raised as if they haven't been answered already, when in fact several inquiries have been made, answer these questions. Listen, I get maybe you want to put it all into one sort of comprehensive study, maybe devote more resources to doing that, put the final chapter there, but when the person investigating comes out and says this is a trial, which is essentially what Trey Gowdy said before backtracking, that raises suspicions for people who want sort of an objective inquiry into what happened.
Yeah, it also raises suspicions when you start fundraising off of it in these sort of shameless and undisguised fashion that Republicans have. I mean, Darrell Issa has raised $2.5 million this cycle. He will make more this cycle at this pace than his first, 4 terms combined. This is incredibly lucrative business.
He's making more off of this than the low jack, right? Or whatever the heck it was.
I don't know about
Whatever he
that.
made his fortune on. That's saying something, though, Glenn. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what the facts actually are. You just kind of launch these hypotheses.
Alex.
No,
it
I am
does
not
matter.
actually saying that. But for the Republicans who are leading the charge on this, it doesn't really matter what the facts are.
But
you
Alex,
kind of put your
don't you
hypothesis.
know,
but it all...
Go ahead.
I think it's going to have a blowback eventually, right? If
Exactly.
it comes out and it just looks like transparent fundraising or campaigning, or that they picked it up because of the attacks on Obamacare were seeming more and more futile, then it will have a blowback.
And look at the...
Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, look at the polls. I mean, are people obsessed? Are regular voters, people who are going to really impact elections apart from kind of the cul-de-sac here, are people really focused on this stuff? I think when you keep asking question after question, the deeper you get into the weeds, you lose even more people.
Yeah,
What percentage of the American electorate is really focused on this? And when you start getting granular, you're going to lose even more.
Yeah, but let's just in terms of who is giving money to Darrell Issa for his Benghazi investigations, the New Republic reports that it's the Republican grassroots that have filled Issa's coffers. And they may not be swing voters, but they are people that may come out and vote in the midterms. And that, as much as the fundraising, seems to be at the root of this strategy.
And that's true. But then, you know, you see John Boehner come out for some of these press conferences, and he desperately wants to move the conversation actually off of Benghazi. He starts talking about jobs and the economy, and you get the sense that you're having two conversations. One is to the grassroots, to the fundraisers, the people who give money, and the other is to sort of the swing voters, the independent voters, who really aren't paying that close attention to Benghazi, care more about the economy.
And to add to what Sam's saying, we have a real scandal involving a cabinet secretary. His name is Eric Shinseki.
Exactly.
And what's going on at the VA was miserable, and the oversight of that agency was unconscionable. And yet, why aren't we seeing a special select committee on the VA? Do you think you would be getting that much objection from the Democrats if you saw Republicans pursuing that? I think you would get real bipartisan support, real support for subpoena power on that.
There is a hearing on that on Thursday. We do know that Secretary Shinseki will be testifying, so we will be all ears, Glenn Thrush. Glenn Thrush and Sam Stein. Gentlemen, if you guys don't know what the questions we are supposed to be asking are, then I certainly don't. Thank you, as always, for your time and thoughts.